No, I think every day I'm just so surprised that this works that like I'm just always like, and then I freeze.
We should record like us, in the preview mode while this is in that minute, because I'm always like clicking around, making sure everything's up. Like, do I have everything set up properly? And it's like to the last 3 seconds, and then I'm ready. I'm ready at the last second, always.
Like, what did I forget? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is my life in general.
Wait, who do we have with us today? Justin.
Hey, Justin.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah.
we didn't practice that or anything.
We did it. We were even gonna high five. Remember, like we had a whole thing. Except my hand just. I've got a little gap here.
What's up with that?
Yeah. What's up? That's like some kind of ripple in the space-time continuum.
It would be amazing if I did this and then a hand came out the other side. you probably have to get your wife to like
smack you like, hey, Adam.
That's hilarious.
We can find a way. Anyway.
Oh my gosh. Hey, look who we have. We have Cube Jerome. Here we go. Here we go.
Yes.
Also, Alex Smasha. Here we go. Remix. Oh yeah, that would be really funny.
Yeah.
I'll get my son to do it. And so it's this little tiny hand coming out.
Baby arm.
The baby arm.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Adam has baby arms.
Well, Adam, you're like what, an hour drive from me or something, hour and a half. So it's like, if you're Elastigirl, sort of like stretch your hand, it just gets smaller as it goes. So
exactly.
Yeah,
it totally makes sense.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. I would have to fly. I don't know. My hand would just never get there, I think.
Yeah.
So
it just wouldn't happen.
Be stuck on the 10 freeway just the whole time waiting.
It would take a couple days.
Traffic sucks. What are we going to talk about today?
Today we are talking about the new AWS Load Balancer Controller for Kubernetes. So there's an existing AWS, the ALB ingress controller, which manages ingress resources with Elastic Load Balancer, application load balancers inside of your Kubernetes cluster. And the new version of I'm still trying to remember how to say it, the AWS Load Balancer Controller is more generic. It does a lot more than just ALBs to ingress. So we're going to talk about what it can do and how it works and how to deploy a couple things.
Now that you've explained that, I realize I may have titled this thing wrong, because it's not the new ALB ingress controller. It's the new LB ingress controller.
Not ingress. LB controller. Load balancer controller, because it does application load balancers, but it also does NLBs, network load balancers. So it does more than ALBs and it does more than ingress. So it needs a new name.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's not just ingress. It's a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah. And Cube Jerome.
Go ahead.
Cube Jerome, straight to the point. Multiple ingress per ALB.
Yes.
Ooh.
And so you can share your ALBs. All your ingresses can go to one. Well, not all of them, but depending on how many you need, you can, instead of one ingress, one ALB, you can have multiple ingresses pointing to one ALB.
Nice.
That's
and
money.
You can do more than you said. You can also do more than ALB. What else can you do?
Network load balancers is the other good thing. So if you have non-layer 7 traffic, UDP, TCP traffic, you can also use an NLB at the service level. So it's not an ingress, because ingress objects are only layer 7. They expect HTTP. They expect a lot of things for ingress. But at the service level, you can do layer 4 routing from a network load balancer directly to pods via a service IP. Well, actually, I think it doesn't even use a service IP. It just uses the service object, but routes directly to the pods.
Nice. And what about classic load balancers?
Classic load balancers, if you still expose a service inside of Kubernetes, uses the internal cloud controller, which will create classic ELB load balancers for your service. So if you just say, I want a service, make it a load balancer type, The cloud controller still does that piece of it. But this load balancer controller, and that's also partially tied to the way Kubernetes manages those services. They have a new object, and I forget which version. I think it's 119, put it in beta maybe, where you can actually have an external service load balancer controller. So right now it is tightly coupled inside of Kubernetes to say, I want a service, I want a type load balancer. That right now is the cloud controller has to do that. But in the future, you'll be able to say, oh, I want a service type load balancer. Oh, and use this other external controller to manage that for me.
Nice. Okay. So that means, like, when I think about it in terms of, what I get a lot of questions, especially with people having gone through the workshop. They learn about, I'm going to build my pod, I'm going to build my deployment, then I'm going to build a service, and they get CLBs, and then they take that concept and they go to, their real world environment, and they have like 26 classic load balancers, and they're like, oh my gosh, does it have to be this way? And so that's when I point them at ingress, and how all of that works. So it sounds like this is not going to replace that first scenario, but it's going to definitely improve what we point them to, and we show them ingress. Now ingress is going to be even better than before. So that's really cool.
Yep, that is the plan.
So Cube Jerome wants to know, so this is a new controller, right? If so, why a new controller instead of improving the ALB ingress controller?
It is. So the code for the controller is going to live in the same repo. We're renaming the repo to be the new load balancer controller. So it is new code because the way it's implemented is pretty different in a lot of cases. The migration path from I have the current ALB ingress controller to this new load balancer controller is seamless. You can just take what you have and install the new controller, and it can work exactly the same way. The new controller has some other pieces in it that are optional or upgrades, as far as it actually uses a CRD to manage a custom resource definition inside of Kubernetes to manage your endpoints. So things like API calls to your AWS resources is a lot less, because the controller doesn't have to call out to the AWS APIs every time it needs to, a pod, scales up or scales down or changes nodes or something. The controller itself can update the CRD and then update the target groups for the load balancer. So your AWS API limits will be reduced by this new controller, but you can just install the new controller with the old config and old ingress, and you'll get the same behavior. But it is a much broadened in scope controller, so we had to, there was new things that had to be written using the CRD, managing new types of load balancers such as NLBs, were all new things to add into it. So I'm sure there is some section of code that's shared, but the old controller was very limited in only looking at ingress and only providing ALBs. The new one, again, like I said, custom resource definitions, NLBs, those sorts of things are all added benefits. So it's the same repo URL, new name. There's probably shared code in there somewhere, but it's so small compared to what it does now.
So Cube Jerome, let's just say instead of how you said, instead of improving the existing controller, let's say we vastly improved the existing controller to the point that it's almost unrecognizable, yet still backwards compatible with the configs that you're using today. TrueSec wants to know, do what? What'd you say, Adam?
No, I said that's the key, is the backwards compatibility. I was going to ask about that, but that's fantastic. Yeah.
So TrueSec123 wants to know, how is the API gateway integration with this new controller?
To be honest, I don't think it does anything. I don't think it does anything with API gateway. So
right. So, but the idea. So if you use this controller to expose an NLB or an ALB, you still have to integrate with the API gateway. So there's still those connecting pieces you have to figure out outside of that. So whether that's through a VPC link or just exposing that NLB or ALB URL as the endpoint, there's many ways you can do it, but it's not built into this particular controller.
Yeah, and TrueSec123, this is actually a conversation that I've had here and there inside AWS, and I'd like to get a sense of what you're looking for as far as integration with API Gateway is concerned. So maybe could you reach out to me on Twitter and DM me if you don't want to be public about it, and just let me know, what are you looking for with API Gateway that ALB can't do? And I know there are answers. This isn't a trick question. I just want to know, like, when I go talk to people inside, I want to know like what to talk to them about. So definitely, I'd love to hear your use case there. Also, by the way, if you take a look at the app mesh ingress, let me know what is missing from that API Gateway can do for you as well. That would be useful info to have too. Cube Jerome says the new controller is still in beta, right? And it's a release candidate, so we're expecting it to not be in beta for much longer, and so we're going to go ahead and do the unboxing and take a look at it. And we expect this is the experience that you'll have when it is GA.
Yep.
All right.
I see all those comments popping in.
I know. So I like to the follow-up comments that we don't have to necessarily be respond to. I still like to pop them on the screen for future viewers' sake to see that things have been followed up. I missed the beginning. Are we talking about AWS ALB Ingress Controller? Is this the URL? Let's see. I have. Yep, this is what we're talking about. So bingo, you have it right.
And specifically, if you go to that repo there and you look at the releases, there is a release candidate 3, which came out a couple days ago. And that's what we're actually going to be deploying today, to walk through the steps and just kind of show what we need to actually have in our Kubernetes cluster to run this new controller. So that's really the idea here behind today's unboxing. Is we're looking at the release candidates, but the steps that you'll need to actually run it, the final release should be the same.
Nice, awesome,
excellent.
So and there is some documentation link. Some of it isn't updated yet for the new release candidate. So I have my own notes and my own kind of walkthrough of what we're going to do. So we don't really have a place for you to follow along just yet, but once the release is out, it'll have updated docs as well. But to start, we're just going to look at, let's dive right in with I already have a Kubernetes cluster. I think I'm on the right one. Yeah. And by the way, if people didn't see, 118 came out yesterday for EKS. So
nice.
That was a big release for everywhere. If you have a 117 or older cluster, you can upgrade to 118.
Justin, can I put you on the spot, and could you maybe do like a couple snippets of what's in 118 that's exciting to talk about? I put you on the spot.
It's hard. I don't remember which pieces in 118 were beta, which ones were alpha, and which ones are in EKS. So EKS specifically doesn't enable anything that's alpha, which I believe in 118 alpha got things like cluster or service endpoints, which allowed services to scale a lot larger. But again, that's not in 118. So at least not in EKS. I think that's alpha in 118. A lot of the other minor changes, actually, let me look up. Kubernetes.
Oh man. And again, I just put you on the spot. Sorry.
No, this is CNCF has a great walkthrough on special features in their blog posts that highlight a few things. But 118, I feel oh, come on, not tag. 118, I mean, it moves so fast that it's 119 came out not long ago. Here's 118.9. EKS, I believe, is 118.8. Yeah, so it's based on 118.8, but there's so many releases here. There's a changelog.
And I guess this is just good for people to understand too, is when if you're not one that's often traversing GitHub and looking through, it's really, you go to the release page, find that release, and you can see generally every product has a release notes, and you can see what has been released and patched and all that.
Right. And Kubernetes specifically has a lot of great tracking for all of the changes and what's deprecations. And if you need to like verify, I'm going to upgrade to a new version, can I do that? Definitely look in the release notes.
Good advice.
So there we go. And this is also changelog since 118.7, which is one thing, right? Like not a whole lot. So we have to look at what we're going from in 118 or 117 if you had an older EKS cluster.
Yeah. Cube Jerome also pasted a link to the AWS docs. And when you look at those, you'll see specifics for EKS called out that are changes from EKS 117 to EKS 118. I still like, and then a link to the changelog that Justin is showing us. I still like going, straight to the source and looking at the changelog. But if you need kind of just a really high level, some summary, then the docs has it for you there too. Yeah, and typically when I'm looking at the change, I look at the major bumps because the minor ones are going to be a couple bug fixes, things like that. So changes since 117.0, server-side apply is huge for people that have clusters that change frequently. If I do a kube control apply, and then someone else does a kube control apply, historically that was done on the client level, so you could have conflicts on the server and say, oh, I got two competing resources. Now that moved into the server, and so both people can do apply, and the server itself, the API server, will merge those and say, okay, I know how to do a three-way diff. I'm going to make sure that I get the correct output that people are intending here in that.
Nice.
Ingress did get updated from standard, or it moved from beta to GA. And so there's this new Ingress class, which you tell it basically like what type. It's similar to the storage classes where I said I wanted, if you had a storage controller, you could say I want fast storage or slow storage, or I don't care, and you can have a default. And so Ingress class does a similar thing where you can say types of Ingress that you want. And this Ingress class, the controllers can use that. I don't know if the new load balancer controller uses Ingress class because literally 118 came out yesterday and the load balancer controller is coming out soon. So I don't know if those are actually interacting with each other just yet, but I'm sure in the future it will be moving in that direction because that's the new GA release for Ingress inside of Kubernetes.
Nice. Texan Raj asks, can you do a demo on server-side apply? I kind of think that's a little bit like the old way is a race condition basically, and the new way eliminates it. But I don't know if there would be a good way to demo the old way to then show you that it isn't happening in a newer version.
I'm trying to think of another analogy of something that was similar. I don't know if whoever used Helm 1.0 used to do client-side rendering for all the manifests. And so if I ran a Helm install, it would basically do a big compile of, I need to build all these manifests, and then I'm going to send them to the API server. And Kube Control does a similar thing if you're using like Customize or something else that merges manifests down to say like, okay, this is the actual thing I need, send it to the API server. And so if I ran old version, Helm version 1, Helm install something, and then close my laptop and went home for the day, it wouldn't finish because there was nothing that like actually triggered the server to do anything yet. It was all doing it locally. And so Kube Control apply being server side, also like if I run Kube Control, run a bunch of, apply a whole directory of stuff with Customize, close my laptop, I'm done for the day, it's not going to work. Nothing's going to happen there. And so moving that to server side not only helps that if like I get disconnected, I have a flaky internet connection or something, but also in the sense, like I said earlier, where multiple people are doing an apply at once. And if there's a conflict in what they're doing, that apply doesn't have to happen at the client side now.
Nice. He says Kube Control debug looks cool also. Yes. But that's alpha, so not in EKS 118, correct?
Correct. It's not in EKS 118. I'm super excited for Kube Control debug. You can basically mount on the fly sidecars to your container, to your pod, and say, hey, I need to debug something. So you have a debug container or debug pod spec somewhere. I think it's just a container with whatever tools you want. You can have TCP dump and whatever dig, all this stuff that you don't want in your prod container and you can run a debug command, it mounts you, drops a shell inside of your debug container, and you have the same PID namespace, network namespace, all that stuff. So super cool. We'll have to show that off once it moves out of alpha.
Yeah,
Nice.
That is cool. And can we just, I wanted to talk about this because this is a great point, right? Like oftentimes there's a lot of push for just latest bleeding edge, but realistically, it takes time to move, to the next version. It's not just something you do. Some companies, they're fast, they get it. They're just that, I don't know. But the majority, right, it takes time before you upgrade. So that was just an interesting point by Cube Jerome to point out.
Totally. Yeah. And I was at Cube Jerome. I was actually going to ask again, can you reach out privately? And I'm curious, what is the holdup? Not that you should, it just came out yesterday, not that you should already be running it in production today, but you say not ready. It makes me think that it's going to be a while. And I'd like to know, what is it that you have to go through? What slows you down? And it's a curiosity thing for me. So if you feel comfortable letting me know, I'd really like to get a sense for what it is that holds you back from going to the latest version, pretty quickly. So that's awesome. Yeah. But hey, we're here to talk about a load balancer controller, and I'm worried now that we're going to run out of time. So
let's get started.
I take the blame for
that. So the first thing we're actually going to need in our cluster, it's pods, and let's look at what I have here. I don't have anything special running. Like I said, I just created this cluster half hour ago. So there's nothing special about it. The one thing that I think I did was I thought I created an OIDC provider for the cluster, which EKS control does for you. But I don't remember for sure. So I'm going to run the command again and just make sure that I have it set up. You do need that in the cluster because of the way the permissions of what the controller is going to try to come out and assume role for objects inside of AWS. And so we're doing this, instead of doing it at the node level, we're doing it at the pod level. And so we need to be able to basically hook into some of that permissions and be able to assume role from the controller. And so this is allowing us to do that. Oh, and I need to change this. So my cluster name, actually, I need to look up my cluster name. Hold on a second. Something floral mongoose. Yeah. And if I think I put that in. Okay, good. I put it in this variable cluster, and I have a AWS accounts variable too. So let's just do cluster, and this is in US West 2. Did it actually go? I don't know if that actually went. Did it?
I don't know.
It's not in my history now.
Press enter again and see if it tells you that it completed.
Okay,
jobs. Okay.
Okay, there we go. Oh, it's already associated. So it did run. Good to know. The second thing we need to do is actually create our IAM permissions for this assume role. So the controller needs to reach out into AWS and make AWS changes. So we need IAM permission to do that. The docs will have this example IAM policy here, which has all of the permissions that we're going to need for this controller to be able to do things. It needs to be able to read tags. It needs to be able to obviously create load balancers, that sort of stuff. So we will copy paste over here. Create this policy from a file, and we're naming it AWS Load Balancer Controller IAM policy. So it's pretty straightforward AWS command, which is just saying we need to create that policy. And then we need to create that's not a lot. IAM service account. And this is wrong now because I have a different cluster.
I love the randomized names.
Right. So this is now saying take that IAM policy, and we're going to attach it to the deployment that has any pod that is under this deployment, the AWS Load Balancer Controller. And so that's any pods from there will be able to assume this role. Is basically all we're saying. We created the policy. Now we're saying let's make a service account inside of Kubernetes that allows us to attach to that and assume role for that policy.
Is he doing Control R? Oh, I thought. That's a good point. So yeah, in Bash, if you press Control R, that's how you kind of
search your command history.
You start typing your command and it'll grab it from history. I also pasted the Bash completion in there for CLI, the AWS CLI. I'm not sure which one.
Which is super useful to have.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what that was about. So
the instructions so there's our service account. The instructions for the load balancer is going to have 2 ways to install it. One from a static YAML manifest, which you need to do a couple things to edit it to make sure it works. One is specifically with Cert Manager. The way this controller works is actually installs a pre-commits webhook to be able to tie into the apply commands for services and that sort of stuff, specifically for NLBs and Fargates. But it needs that webhook to be able to look at the manifest as it's coming in, make some changes, and then apply it to the server. The Helm install is going to do that for you. And so FCF is awesome. I love FCF. The Helm install is going to do some of that for you and specifically use Cert Manager to get a certificate for the webhook. So we're going to use the Helm install, but there will be instructions to do it manually as well if you need to modify certain things. And if I have and like I said earlier, this controller uses a CRD to change how endpoints are managed behind the load balancer specifically for target groups. So we have this CRD that we do need to make separately, which is a target group bindings is what it's called. So we're just going to create this. It's just a template creating that custom resource definition inside the cluster. Oh, apply with 3 Ps, huh? I think my mechanical keyboard P is starting to wear out, and like occasionally I get doubles on it. I need to figure that out sometime. So the other thing we want to do is Helm.
What's amazing is that the K is holding up.
Would think that would wear out first, huh? So we have a EKS charts Helm repository. So we're going to add that to Helm. I think I already had it, obviously. And then I want to do a Helm upgrade command. And this is going to be the entire command to basically say it upgrade also does an install if it's not there. But if you have it existing, upgrade will change the old one to the new version. The main things we're doing here is I have a namespace. It's going into kube system. I'm calling it the service name, the service account name that I just created, the AWS Load Balancer Controller. I don't want Helm to create that for me because I just did it manually. And then I need my cluster name. The reason this needs to be set is inside the manifest. The controller config needs to know which cluster the load balancer is part of, basically. So we need to set that inside of the Helm install as a variable. And then here's the actual chart. The chart is just this EKS AWS Load Balancer Controller. So everything else is just options to that Helm chart.
We should make a CDK construct out of this.
We should make a lot of constructs.
I want to make a construct. Pahood, if you're watching, let's do this.
Pahood will be watching tomorrow morning when he's like at the gym,
horseback or something,
doing an hour-long plank.
An hour-long plank. Oh,
that's right. While swimming on the bike.
Yep.
So the deploy already created our load balancer pod. It makes a deployment, obviously, and then makes a pod. I'm just looking at the logs here to see, okay, we have, information from the log just to verify that it's kind of up and running. And that's like all of the pieces of install the controller, right? Like it's there now. Now we should be able to use it. So the first thing I wanted to show off was the shared ALB endpoint. So I can have multiple services tied to the same ALB. And I have an example in this repo, Echo, which is just it has, does it create that namespace? I don't remember. I might need to do that. It has 5 replicas. It's using this echo server example. And then down here, we create our service, target ports, and port that it gets exposed, and our ingress, which is pretty standard for any ingress controller that we're using. I think this is all identical to the old ALB ingress. I don't remember for sure if this was part of it as a annotation, but everything else should just work.
The slash scheme I'm not 100% on, but the rest of it looks right. I don't think you have, unless you already have the namespace. Yeah.
Based on that namespace, I can tell when the last time you tested this was.
Yep. Creates namespace. There. Now let's create it.
Nice.
We're creating our containers. We expose the node ports. Here's our deployments, and we have a replica set. They're all running now, so I should be able to ingress in that port. I can see I have it up basically. What's the way to? I forget how to get the actual endpoint for ingress.
Would it show up on wide -o wide?
No. Here, I got an idea. Let's go look. Let's go look in here.
That's what I end up doing most of the time.
Yeah.
EC2. Oh, yeah, EC2.
Oh, I love the new console updates.
How many instances? Where's my network? Load balancers. There we go.
Alex Smasha, this thing isn't even out yet, and he's already asking, like, does it work with? So yeah, does it work with Global Accelerator by any chance?
No, not that I know of.
Yeah, but I think you could still use you could configure Global Accelerator to point at these ALBs or NLBs. So you could go ahead and get it all set up, and then just bring Global Accelerator along and layer it on top.
Yep, like in CloudFormation or CDK, you just reference that existing ALB and pass that in as a parameter or an input.
What is it? Here, let's try this. I created so many clusters over the last, I don't know how long.
That's right, Adam.
I should get it in my address once it's available.
That makes sense. Wait, so you couldn't find it in the console yet?
Oh, no.
There's
unauthorized. Yeah, okay. Oh, I messed up something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I need to fix my permissions here.
So the IAM role maybe?
The IAM role doesn't have the access it needs.
Just go admin star. For the demo.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. just a joke.
Cube Jerome called it. He identified it. Ursa.
And so
Jerome's on fire
there are very specific things here with node level access to things and pod level access to things. So when you create a cluster with EKS control, the old way of doing it, I could say there's a flag in there that says allow ingress or ALB ingress, I think is what the flag is. That will give you permissions at the node level to create ingress objects. In this case, with this new controller, that doesn't work because 2 reasons. One, well, it might work for ALB specific things. If you're only creating ALBs, it would probably still work, which is actually weird because I'm creating an ALB here. So I would think this would work. But we do want to move more from node level scope of security to the pod specifically. And so I could say a service account for my pod should be able to assume role into whatever endpoints or whatever AWS resource and do the thing that I need. So the Ursa is specifically pod level. It's narrower scope for who has permission to do what.
Makes sense.
So I am looking through my notes here real fast. Super exciting. Debugging IAM, doing it live.
And now I feel like I need some sound buttons, that I can mash to play Jeopardy music and, the final Jeopardy song, etc. The final countdown, that would be a good song right now. The organ music that you play at baseball and basketball games. Dun, dun,
Yep.
dun, dun, dun.
Da, 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 da. Yeah, but the problem is licensing.
Oh,
and all
yeah.
that. So we'd have to just do it on our own.
Yeah, exactly. Like me singing it is probably fine.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, let's see. Can I don't actually know if this will work, but let's try it. See those logs again. So I cannot. Is that no? It's just called service accounts, isn't it? SA. Wow, look at all of them. Oh, there it is. And the AWS Balancer. Let's see here. So here's my policy. I'm making sure I wanted to verify that I had the right account number in here. This is my cluster. Adam IAM role. Let's verify that. Let's check it in the cluster for me. And let's see here.
Troubleshooting live, ladies and gentlemen.
I get my token.
It's all good. This is still super useful to see, like,
Absolutely.
how do you when things go wrong, where do you look? What do you look
and right now I'm looking in the console. I actually want this because this will show me what I have attached to that role. Okay. I have
Cube your own. While debugging it, what's up on the t-shirt, Brent and Adam? I've started working with a designer to get the design going, and I'm waiting to get the first samples back. Well, not like t-shirt samples, but design ideas. So it's coming along. We're working on it.
Takes time.
Restart this guy or girl. I don't know. Do pods have genders? Probably not.
Yeah, I'll go with not. By the way, I got a voicemail earlier. No, never mind. I can't. I tweeted about it, but maybe I shouldn't actually talk about it, in a YouTube video that's going to stay around forever. What?
Why was I signed out? I didn't do nothing.
That just happens from time to time.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, come on. The select in this web terminal. Go to it. Not available. Are you serious? DNS, hurry up. Let's see.
So yeah, Cubed your own. What did you change?
What do you think I changed? Admin access.
So to troubleshoot.
So here, let me pull this tab over. To troubleshoot, I went into my roles. I had if you look at, so I looked for floral Mongoose. These were the roles that I had. One was for EC2. The other ones were for other things.
Identity providers, which may have been like an
so here's the
OIDC
CNI.
mismatch.
This is for the CNI policy so that the nodes can add IP addresses inside the VPC. And then the second one was for the actual one I created, which is the add-on. So here's my original policy. I need to debug which one of these policies wasn't enough. And I actually saw that there was an error on ELB, which was interesting to me, but I didn't want to dig into it too much. So of course, the quick fix is let's add admin and see if that works. And then we can work backwards and see what we can remove.
And I let's talk about that for a minute. Like, obviously in a production account, this is not something you should be doing, right? But Justin is in a demo account. He's not running production workloads. He's working through this in a test environment. That's okay. Also, I have a tweet somewhere I'm trying to find where I talked about there's a CLI command where you can actually pass in a role to that command and say, what has this role tried to access within the past 24 hours? Or I forget the time frame. I'm going to find that tweet and post it in here, but that's another thing you can do to say, oh, it looks like it was trying to access this and it got denied.
Yeah, so I was going to suggest, to really track this down. We probably don't have time to do it here on the show, but CloudTrail log, you can go find, that particular role, that particular identity, and what was it denied from doing. And that's how you could figure out what you need to add to that policy or what that policy might be missing. So, but yeah, this is good for now, just to let us keep going. I suspect it's a typo or a mismatch or something.
Yeah.
Between.
Cube Jerome asked about CloudTrail. So CloudTrail, and if you know this, forgive me, but I'm just going to explain it. So CloudTrail is basically a logging mechanism that tracks all API calls made in your AWS account. And so remember, when you click in the console, that's an API call. When you call from the CLI, when Kubernetes makes a call to try to create an object in AWS, this is all done through the APIs in AWS. So CloudTrail will give you access and insight into those API calls. Were they denied, rejected, etc.?
Exactly. And Sergeant Dammit asks, is there a doc for this? And there will be when this is released very soon. There will be documentation for all of this as well.
So I wanted to deploying that was supposed to just create one ALB that should work as the same as every other ALB. I actually want to show the sharing of an ALB for multiple services, just to let's see if that works, and then also show how you do that. So I have the second deployment here. It does the exact same thing as my Echo had before. You can see up here I have my same Echo deployments, and then I'm going to create an ingress for Echo. One difference here on the ingress. Sorry, that was a service. It creates a service for it, and then down here is create my ingress for it. And one of the things we actually do is we have this ALB group name. And so you can name your groups for whatever you want the ALB to be called. And so we can do it by services, we could do it by team or by namespace, whatever it is that makes sense for you, to how you want to group your ALBs. But now I can have multiple services behind the same ALB based on this group name. So I'm doing it here for Echo. And then if I scroll down later, I have the 2048 is the popular, used to be a popular mobile game. Now it's a popular demo game.
I was going to say, used to. Go ahead.
I mean, once you win, it's what else are you gonna do? So,
have you won?
Well, you have to get to what was the total? I mean, beyond 2048, like you can go keep going. Yeah, I have it. I'm scared to admit how far I've gotten in that game.
I forgot the number also, but I do have it. I basically filled it out. Every square was half of the previous square, all the way back to the final
beginning.
square.
You win.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yep. Can't do any more.
So in this case, we're doing the new game 2048 service, and I'm using the same group name for my ALB ingress. So we should get one ALB with two services behind it. And the difference here being, you can see, down here I have my path of, the root path will be Echo 2040, or sorry, the root path will be the game 2048. So if I just go to the ingress that gets provisioned, I'll get that. for echo, I'll do a path echo. And so the same endpoints with different path-based routing for the ALB. So I should be able to apply this. And it creates, again, the deployments, ingress, rules, and services. So yeah. Okay, so they're already running. Ingress. I still have my first ingress here that I don't know why it's not working. And you see my second one. It should be okay. Game 2048. Wait, is that gonna? There we go. Now we got a host.
Nice.
Very cool. So Cube Jerome asks, do the two ingresses need to be in the same namespace?
No.
Perfect.
Why does that not work? Let's look back at this load balancer. Still shows provisioning.
Still says provisioning.
Yeah. So something seems to be taking a while to actually provision this. I get my listeners, my rules. You can see here I have exactly what I set up there. I have this echo path is going to go to the ingress echo, and then my star path is going to my game 2048. So the ALB is just set, reroute to these target groups. And actually, let me show off the K8s. What's it called again? Target group bindings. Just to show what that looks like.
Yeah.
So I have, it creates two of these target group bindings, which are how the ALB controller mount or routes from, one ingress rule to something behind it. So if we should be able to see here and you can create these manually. You can create them with the annotations, or if you want control over, if you have an existing ALB and you want your ingress to join an existing ALB, you don't have to have the controller create the ALB for you. You can just create these target group bindings manually for whatever ingress or service you want, and cut out the controller piece of it to say, like, I have 5 ALBs. I just want this one to be part of a target group for this other ALB. That's exactly what this can do, which is
nice.
Super nice to be a lot more flexible to be able to allow people to do what they need inside of their environment.
Totally. So Tommy F17 asks, so these are multiple ingresses using path-based routing. Can you have multiple ingresses on the same ALB with different host names and do host-based routing?
I don't believe the annotations on this controller is going to do anything with that. You can do things with the, I'm trying to remember what's called, external DNS, and you can point multiple DNS entries to the same ALB endpoint. So there are ways to route that at a DNS level and say, hey, host name route over here. It's similar to what you're doing with just a standard ingress controller. Like if you have an ingress controller, not considering this one at all, I need to route multiple DNS things to that host, and then that ingress controller needs to be aware of what host names it accepts, essentially.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to drop the traffic. But the ingress controller is flexible enough to say, accept these host names and then route them to these areas. Ingress does that by default. So if you route the DNS to this endpoint, then yes, you can set up the rules to say not just path, but which host names to accept. And DNS would point it there, and then it routes to the correct services.
And then he also asks earlier, so if you specify a group name that doesn't exist yet, does it create a new ALB?
Correct.
Awesome.
And so did I close my, no, here's my rules. Let's go back to the load balancers. I should actually I'll have 2 of them in here. One for that echo service that I had. Oh, it's active now. Wait, go.
Yeah, I think what we saw was it was provisioning with the new rule that you had just created. Yay!
And now for the rest of the time, I'm going to play this game.
Beautiful.
But if I have it here, if I go to /echo, I get an actual echo back of my request. So it's the same ALB routing to two services inside the cluster.
Nice. In two different namespaces. That's awesome.
These are both in the same, but yeah, it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Texan Raj says, can you put all this in your GitHub? And I think that we can expect these examples to be part of the documentation.
Yep.
When this does launch. Cool.
The last thing I can show
ahead.
real quick is just how to do the NLB. I won't necessarily do it right now. Actually, apply. No, it doesn't work there. Apply all of the hellos.
Do you have hellos? Are you in the right directory?
Yeah. What is wrong with my service?
You have hello dot.
It's there. The main thing you want inside of a service deployment for the load balancer control to deploy or create an NLB is this annotation, which just says on a service, we're going to use the AWS load balancer type, and it's going to be an NLB IP. And so this will, from the service level, again, not ingress, at a service level, I'm going to create a layer 4 network load balancer, which will route IP addresses to any pod that matches those labels.
Awesome. And that makes it Fargate compatible.
Correct. Well, yeah, I mean, ALB worked with Fargate as well.
Right.
But if you have network, there we go. If you have network service or pods inside of Fargate that need to route IP addresses, not HTTP, this is good for game servers. This is good for something that might need WebSockets or UDP traffic, right? You want to send UDP, you can run Fargates here.
So Bokjo says, what about Doom on Kubernetes, though?
It's been done before.
Yeah, this could totally, Doom on Fargate. So you could totally do that.
So I already got that NLB provisioned. I don't know if you wanted to say something else to wrap up. Let me see if I can just find this IP real fast.
Yeah, so we've had a couple questions about when, and we're being coy, but we're saying very soon. So we're unboxing it today, while it's a release candidate, but we expect that this is going to be the experience that you'll have when it does get released for GA. So yeah, you're getting a kind of a first look at it. And then you'll be ready when this thing GAs, you'll be ready to use it.
Nice.
I expect everyone here to start using it the morning that it's launched. Just saying.
So we can see that I did get the other network load balancer in the cluster. So this would, again, it's routing network. You can see type here is network instead of, if I look at the type on this one, application. So I could route UDP traffic or something else TCP based that doesn't need HTTP. It's still provisioning, so it hasn't fully resolved everything. But end of the day, I should be able to curl here and I get a echo hello out of it.
Nice. Alex Smasha says troubleshooting session was cool. So I wonder if we should have a show on how do you troubleshoot things in Kubernetes.
Before I joined AWS, I actually wanted to start a Twitch stream of just like, anyone want me to debug something with you? Like if you have something that's in a test account or something, like let's just pair and let's just try to figure it out. Like maybe we will, maybe we won't, but it's super fun to me to like dig into those things and know where to look. And it's something that's lacking for a lot of people that just don't have experience. Like, how do I debug this? What layer is this actually causing the trouble? The trouble is this AWS APIs? Is this IAM? Is this Kubernetes? Is this Linux? There's so many layers in that stack that, yeah, debugging is super hard. And all the debugging things I see are usually contrived. They don't like, hey, this is broken, let's figure it out. Like it never works as well as like a production. How do I actually figure this out?
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Adam. We gotta get out of here in time for I think coming up next is AWS How Do Y'all, or How Do Y'all Partners, or something like that. I should really know the show names by now. I'm sorry. Sorry about that, y'all. But we'll be back. We're not going to be back tomorrow. There's an event happening, but we'll be back on Monday. So I'll see everyone then.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Justin.